The feminine mystique dealt with a women's place in the workplace and within the family. Frieden's main thesis throughout the book was that women, societally forced to become housewives, were restless and unfulfilled in their roles. Since I myself wasn't a housewife in the 1960s, I decided to test Frieden's hypothesis and ask my grandma what being a housewife in the 60s was all about. I seem to sleep so much. I don't know why I should be so tired. The house isn't nearly so hard to clean as the cold water flat we had when I was working. The children are at school all day. It's not the work. I just don't feel alive. Especially in the beginning of the book, Frieden uses many anecdotes, such as this one, to portray the unhappiness of housewives. Again and again, these women complain of their lack of independence and how their lives don't revolve around much except their children and their husbands. My grandma was a housewife and a mother of 3 in the 1960s and 70s, so I was interested to see how her experiences stacked up to those documented in the feminine mystique.
After I got through with high school, I was only a couple of years and I got married, and then I was busy raising a family, and I was a stay-at-home mommy and housewife, and my husband really didn't want me to work. He said, we can do what we can do with what we got, and we did.
Did you ever feel like when you were at home it was like, I'm not going to amount to anything but this?
No, I was always happy being a mommy. I was available with my little children when there were things going on in school, and I was a room mother, and I volunteered at church to do things, and I was just very content. I'm a very contented person. It was just because I guess I was just brought up to be a housewife. I mean, it was just the instinct in you. I took care of the inside of the house, and my husband took care of the outside. I mean, I painted. I wasn't forced to do it, but I did. I mean, I love to paint.
I know, you wouldn't let him paint.
No, he wasn't a very good painter. He was kind of sloppy. Me, I could not take furniture out of the room, not just pull everything away from the wall and just paint and put it back, and I could wear good clothes doing it. And I loved painting. And I cooked and baked and...
In stark contrast to Frieden's claims, my grandma was more than happy in her role as a housewife. Even though she did later enter the workforce, her work still revolves around taking care of children. As she says, her personality and upbringing perfectly suit the role of housewife. Frieden uses ambiguity when she talks about housewives, implying not only its literal meaning, but also using it as a metaphor for being trapped. She says that herself and many women saw the title of occupation housewife as a trap and something that they could never escape. Another key claim in the book is that magazines and the then popular teachings of Sigmund Freud contributed to the confinement of women to the home. Frieden claims magazines changed what content was put out to women when men returned from World War II and took over the roles of head of the magazines. I asked my grandma if she had ever noticed a shift in magazine content. Did you ever subscribe to any of those? Or did you read them?
No, because we couldn't afford them. I didn't get magazines till I was married, and then I used to get Good Housekeeping.
Yeah, we're talking about housewife, not child.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you did say that. Yes, I did subscribe to Good Housekeeping. I'm trying to think, my daughter gave me a magazine a couple weeks ago, and I think it was Good Housekeeping or something, and I looked at it, and it was...
I'm sure it's like rich.
It was nothing like it used to be. It was just so much advertising in it. It had like recipes years ago and good articles, but this was not like we remembered. But that was all. But women's magazines, yes, I noticed a change in their articles and things.
In the book, Frieden relies heavily on her psychology degree to tell the audience more about Freud's sexist teachings and her theories surrounding Maslow's hierarchy of needs. She uses a didactic and critical tone when discussing Freud's theories, which typically center around women's envy of men. And Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a pyramid shape, and at the top is self-actualization. And she says that women aren't able to reach self-actualization because they're stuck at other parts of the pyramid that they have to fulfill first. My grandma is not a psychologist, so I didn't ask her about this. This book was a long read. While it may have been relatable to its target audience 55 years ago, I found that it wasn't really relatable to me. I didn't identify with the 60s housewife identified in the book. Women nowadays are no longer confined to a certain role and are branching out into more fields than ever before. Times have changed, and my grandma had a few things to say about the changing role of women in a household. What do you think has changed from, like, when your mom raised you to you raising your own daughters to now your daughters having their own daughters? Like, what has changed in raising?
Well, just because women work nowadays. My mom did not work. My mom was always available for me when I needed something.
Now my mom doesn't answer her phone.
Nowadays, women get married, and they go to college, then they get married, then they have a family, and those poor little kids from almost day one, well, I won't say day one, maybe a month old, they're thrown in daycare, and there they are. Their whole life is daycare, remember? You were a good example. You had to go in the morning, and then you had to go to this, and you had to go to that. And I mean, I'm just saying, it's a different way of life now that these women have. And some of them aren't having children to older ages either, because they want to get their education in first. But me, I wouldn't want to be raising or having a child when I'm 30, 40 years old. I'm glad I had mine when I was younger.
Women now make up around half the workforce, with many holding jobs that require a college education. Frieden had a lot to say about college. She says that many women saw college as a way to find a man, and that after they found that man, they didn't really care about the education. It was common at the time to believe that women who went to college were overall more unhappy with their lives. My grandma didn't go to college because the resources weren't available to her, and it wasn't really commonplace for people to go to college where she grew up. According to her, she never went out of her way to find a man. She did, however, have occasions on which men tried to find her. Women have come a long way since the second wave, but the work is... Did you ever do anything to find a man?
No. Well, no. But we used to go, even on Saturday, and there was a club there called the Caboto Club. My husband, when he came over from Italy, he was living right across the railroad tracks from this Caboto Club. And in Canada in those days, there was a door that said men and women, and men only. A woman could not go in these bars by herself. That's all.
Why?
It just wasn't permitted. Canada was very strict. Like
That's
I said,
weird.
they closed everything down on Sunday. But and that was the bottom. But if you went upstairs, it was like the dance hall. But we used to go there, and they used to socialize, and my cousin and I didn't know what to do because we were maybe 15, 16 years old. So we used to go up to the dance club upstairs.
But you weren't allowed to go alone because you were women.
No, we couldn't go in the bar, but we could go upstairs. We had to get our hands stamped. These little Italian guys would come up to you, and they spoke Italian, or English very broken. They go, "Hey, you live in America? You want to dance? You can live in America?" And we would just sit there and say, "No, no, thank you, no, thank you," because they wanted to get married and come over and stuff. But we were young little girls.
Using you for a green card?
Yes, but we were just young little teenage girls, and we would just sit there.
Women have come a long way since the second wave, but the work is never done. Full equality still hasn't been achieved. A woman's place can still be in the House, but it can now be in different types of houses. The House of Representatives, the White House. Women are now encouraged to seek whatever type of occupation they want, and Freud's sexism is now dismissed by many psychologists. But Frieden's impact still lives on today. She helped found the National Organization for Women in 1966, and it remains a prominent interest group in American politics. I want to end with another quote from Frieden, one which I think is still relevant today, 55 years after it first appeared in print. Who knows what women can be when they are finally free to become themselves? Who knows that women's intelligence will contribute when it can be nourished without denying love? Who knows of the possibilities of love when men and women share not only children, home, and garden, not only the fulfillment of their biological roles, but the responsibilities and passions of the work that creates the human future and the full human knowledge of who they are. It has barely begun, the search of women for themselves. That the time is at hand when the voices of the feminine mystique can no longer drown out the inner voice that is driving women on to become complete.
Lauren, Indiana. We're signing out.